For over a decade now, she's eluded me. That soft texture, that fruity sweetness, just enough sour to drive any man crazy, leaving him crawling, begging for more. How I long for that tender embrace, how I long to lock my lips upon her. But she's gone now, gone with the wind, just a passing fancy. And I'm left asking, what was Wazoo? Wazoo. The Wazoo bar was a candy bar that exclusively existed in the year 2009. The bar was created by Tops, who you'll know as the company behind the Juicy Drop Pops, Baby Bottle Pops, Bazooka Joe, Garbage Pail Kids, and of course, the baseball cards. Wazoo was the creation of Daniel Hart and Gary Weiss, two inventors and the co-creators of the company Ripe Design. According to Wikipedia, Wazoo was manufactured by an unspecified smaller company that went bankrupt shortly after it began production. Apparently, the first batch of Wazoo released to stores was the only one ever. The ingredients of the Wazoo bar include sugar, corn syrup, partially hydrogenated palm kernel non-fat milk palm kernel citric acid, soy, artificial carrot, beeswax, red flu 1, red 3, confectionery glaze. Wazoo came in two flavors, blue raz and wild berries. You gotta get the Z's in there so you know it's a cool hip candy for the hashtag youth. The Wazoo bar had a fruity nougat center covered in cream and covered with sour candy crunchies. And it was the best candy I ever had. I'd like to think I have good taste in candy. Sure, I'm big on the basics like a Kit Kat or a Reese's Cup. I like myself a Heath bar with that toffee goodness, or a crunchy bar that tastes like eating a styrofoam honeycomb. Which is a good thing. I kid you not, there is no jest in my voice when I say that the Wazoo was the best candy I've ever had. There has never and may never be a single candy like the Wazoo ever again. Humanity has been robbed of an artifact. The discontinuation of the Wazoo is slightly above the burning of the Library of Alexandria in the realm of irreplaceable relics lost to time and human error. When I first had it at the age of 9, I was blown away. It was like eating the color blue. Imagine eating something that tasted the way a Smensel smelled. That was Wazoo. After 13 years, I still remember where I was when I first tried one, and I still have the taste on my tongue. And if I knew how shortly it would live, I would have made it last. There's very little information about the Wazoo online, which makes sense. It barely existed for a year. I've gathered as much information and media that I could in order to discuss and reflect on it throughout this video. Consider this a long overdue memorial service for a candy bar that was too good to last. Now I know what you might be thinking, but Pineapple 8 Ball, or Chris, just call me Chris. But Chris, the Wazoo bar looks nasty. And you're right, if that's how you feel. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. On my journey across the internet searching for information about the Wazoo bar, I've come across many reviews and reflections on it. Some of these are people who reminisce about the candy nowadays. Others are reviews that people gave while eating the Wazoo back in 2009. What interests me is that people have very mixed reactions about the candy when for me it was a home run. Home run! So let's check out the receptions to the Wazoo. A big part of finding these reactions was just typing in Wazoo on YouTube, Google, and other platforms. You know your candy bar is obscure when you can count the amount of relevant Google image searches on one hand. Oh, you like Hershey's bars? I like my candy obscure and discontinued. It's a matter of taste. This one Reddit post features an artist's rendering of the bar based on memory, like a pioneer illustrating a deceased loved one in the time before photography. That doesn't look safe for consumption. After looking at that picture, I want one now. That looks delicious. Lord, that looks disgusting. Doesn't Wazoo mean anus? Don't worry, we'll get there eventually. Looking at this made all my teeth fall out. That looks disgusting. Where can I acquire one and put it in my mouth? That's a weird way to put it. I have never heard of that in my life. That looks like Effie Trinket's afternoon snack. Is it bad that I had to look up who Effie Trinket was? Oh my god, I've been trying to remember the name of this for months now. Wow, that looks unappetizing. I was like, WTF, OP? You're saying it's purple? I stand corrected. Wow, that looks poisonous, alright. I mean, yeah, it had titanium dioxide in it. along with
caramel,
natural and
artificial
artificial
soy,
less
red
salt,
fat
egg
acid.
white. But I turned out fine. Is it vegetarian? It may only contain milk and eggs, so yes. What flavor is it? Purple. Yeah, I guess that was a stupid question. They should call it Unicorn Wazoo, because that's what it looks like it came out of. We will get there. Damn it. This looks delicious, but I'll never get to find out, since it's a discontinued candy bar. I hope it tastes as good as you remembered.
Me too, kid.
This one Reddit user talks about a time when they tried the Wazoo bar as a taste tester. I tried reaching out to them to talk about their experience, but I got no answer. This one Reddit user asks about the recipe for the Wazoo. A noble cause, but I don't know how to make candy. I mean, where would I get beeswax? This other fool on Reddit says that nobody is missing out from not having the Wazoo. In his defense, he may have been led astray by the sheep of the wayward flock. I mean, I found a lot of people that dislike the Wazoo. MikeCatSU on Twitter compares the Wazoo bar to the ball candy from Jimmy Neutron. I get where he's coming from. I feel like the Wazoo texture would definitely be softer than the Neutron candy, and the Wazoo would probably be less sour, but same vibes. This Twitter user wants a Wazoo bar as part of their final meal. And this can benefit you in two ways. 1, you get the candy one more time before you die. 2, your execution is delayed because they can't find the candy. In my research, I found this meme, and I really only recognize the Wazoo bar. I mean, what are the spung monkeys?
We love these songs! 'Cause they are good to us!
Thank God I have no personal connection to this, because I would be so tempted to make a video about it. CandyFavorites.com posted a discontinued candy therapy blog for people to vent about their long-lost candies. I suppose this is where I'll lay to rest with the other poor souls. People mention all these other strange candies, and then finally one woman discusses the Wazoo bars, and how she bought all of them so I couldn't have any. KJ's Market falsely advertises the Wazoo bar, and then recommends me ragu. That's 2 sins. 1, no Wazoo. 2, I don't fucking use ragu. I make that sauce myself. Then we have this from the Candy Yum Yum blog spot. I only get my news from reliable sources. They appreciate how unique the candy is, but they say they don't like eating it. They also mention that the candy crunchies are made in Thailand. This post from the Internet Candy Society talks about how original the Wazoo is. They talk about how much they enjoyed the candy. They mention that it had 170 calories, 5 grams of fat, and was only 4 inches long. Or for my British audience, 4 pounds long. The blog Are We There Yet talks about getting the Wazoo at Walmart. Their young son tried the candy and thought it was pretty horrible. This forum post by someone named Jimbo advocates for people to try the candy. He says he enjoys the fruity flavor and the chocolate texture of it. This person commented on the Wazoo candy commercial, and yes, we will get to it, claiming that the candy was fake, which is very disprovable. I found out that there's a Wazoo Bar's Facebook page. The last post was in 2015, which was some time after they discontinued the candy. These bars are sugar-coated cavities in shiny wrapping, but they were delicious. And people responded, "Bring 'em back," and "How do I make one? I'm bring it back." And this is very recent, too. What's the next best candy to Wazoo bars? We know nothing will ever replace them. Who else misses Wazoo bars? This guy. I hope they bring them back soon. Bring them back soon, please. I remember when I bought a few like 2 years ago, and I just thought they were one of the most amazing candies ever. They tasted like Yogos to me. The hell is a Yogo? Oh, no, I liked these. I do remember these. I do. I do. I just found your name after 8 years. I need them back. Happy New Year, everyone. Snack on some Wazoo bars before you pass out at a bar. This was way after they got discontinued. Would love to go back into 2012. In general, or for Wazoo? Happy Thanksgiving. That's kind of nice. New profile picture contest. The person to post the best picture of Wazoo bars gets their picture chosen as the new profile picture for this page. Deadline ends September 30th. Best candy bar in the world? Wazoo bars! Here he created a poll, and only one person voted. I don't remember the flavors too distinctly. I guess blue raz, because I like the color blue. Is it bad that I thought they were both blue, and I didn't realize they were different colors because I'm colorblind? Like, I had to ask my family, hey, is this purple? Describe Wazoo bars in one word. Awesome! Missed. The best thing I ever had. Why don't you make them anymore? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 14 words. Also, they don't make them. Wazoo bars. The newest drug. The newest drug. Bobby Newport.
Bobby Newport.
I saw Wazoo bars as prizes at an arcade. Mostly Chicago. That's where they make them. I can't verify that. Email Tops to get another company to produce Wazoo bars. We need our sugar-coated goodies. Where have all the Wazoo bars gone? I see them nowhere. I know. Is this the end? You can only get them at Blockbuster. Blockbuster? Blockbuster? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh, come on. I have to drive there to get my favorite candy that I miss so much. I actually got one at Dylan's Candy Bar last Sunday. Yeah. Do you like your Wazoo bars frozen or plain? Both. Plain. I never tried it frozen. I'm mad. Berries and cream, berries and cream. Invite all your friends to become fans of Wazoo bars. It's not a cult. None of my friends like it. I'm the only one. Huh. Same with me. Out of over 100 people I know, I'm the only one that likes them. Remember, be sure to add photos of you with your Wazoo bars. I got a photo of my first Wazoo bar wrapper. Do you want me to post that picture? Sure, that'd be good. Why? Why do you want other people to take pictures of them? Is it nefarious? I don't like this. What other flavors should be added to Wazoo bars? Well, that's kind of an interesting question, actually. Watermelon, grape, kiwi, raspberry, blueberry, yum! They already have raspberry. Raspberry, grape, and watermelon sounds good. They already have raspberry. Lemonade! Ooh, you're speaking my language. I vote for watermelon and grape too. Maybe even orange mango. God, yes. I got an idea. Even though it's supposed to be fruits, there could be a limited edition one, and it could be vanilla and chocolate. Just get a chocolate bar. That's just an idea that I had. Or maybe watermelon mixed with vanilla. Something like that. Vanilla and chocolate, What would the covering be? Strawberry? That could be cool. Ice cream Wazoo. Yum. Pomegranate. Yeah, alright. I mean, kind of weird. Strawberry. Blue raspberry. I've been telling Pepsi and Mountain Dew to make blue raspberry Pepsi, but they won't listen to me. Yeah, I mean, you just gotta put your foot down on that one, man. Wonders. What could make Wazoo bars even better? I've never had them before, never found them. Check out Walmart. Oh yeah, I haven't tried that yet. I gotta check that out ASAP. Now they only sell them at Blockbuster. What is with Blockbuster? Sarah, when you have your first Wazoo bar, it will be like a candy version of God. Trust me, I got a cool profile pic. Yeah, you do. Are even more delicious. I think I'm supposed to be reading these with the title, so like, Wazoo bars are even more delicious. Like, than previously thought? Or Wazoo bars and their consumers? As a statement, I don't know what you mean. Wazoo! Wazoo, the best candy bars ever! As you read these from old to new, it's kind of like a desperate scramble for finding the candy. This whole Facebook page kind of stands as a eulogy to the Wazoo bar. It's weird to see such extensive division over what is obviously a perfect candy. Most people may look at what is basically a bar of edible Play-Doh and think twice, but that's what makes the Wazoo so unique. I guess not everyone can handle it. Here's a review of the candy by the YouTube channel Big Nerds 44.
We are all just about to try the newest candy. I don't know if you've seen the commercial. The candy is called
Wazoo.
Wazoo.
You'll see our expressions as we take the very first
Watch
bite.
my tongue. As seen in the commercial.
Our taste buds might be screaming.
If you want to take a brief look at a candy bar,
It looks like this.
It happens to be candies. Do you see that?
Smell like.
Okay. On the count of 3.
We're gonna take a 1, 2, 3. Chewy.
That's the reaction of someone who loves this candy.
Laffy Taffy.
Yogurt. Oh. Would you like to try it?
Babe, you look like a devil in the camera.
Oh my gosh, this is... I don't know exactly. I don't like it.
Let me try this one. I wonder if that's any different.
If you don't like it, don't go in for a second bite.
Wazoo Type 2.
breakfast bars or some kind of energy bars. Do not try this at home.
Well, that's just propaganda. The Wazoo does kind of have an energy bar vibe to it. Here we have another review from the YouTube channel Todd Wright.
Monday, March the 23rd, 2009. This is Todd Vlog episode 75, I believe. And lately, Jonah and I have been, really all of us have been seeing this very weird and a little bit gross commercial.
But cool.
Yeah, this kid gets it.
For a new candy bar called...
What? No, wait, is that the right song?
Yeah.
Wazoo.
Alright, so Jonah decided that he had to have Wazoo. So after Dad got off from work today, we went looking around for Wazoo, which are kind of hot in
I'll
Target.
tell the
Okay.
yes, in Target.
But they didn't have it.
Yeah. And then Daddy went to look in Walmart, and he found lots of bars, 3 of each.
Okay.
And I saw him.
Here we go. This is Wazoo. I've got the flavor wild berries.
And I got the flavor blue raz.
Okay. And we're going to tell you what is on these.
I'll
This
tell
is,
it. I want to tell.
okay.
Chewy, fruity candy, sprinkled with crunchy.
Yeah. And Finley's already had one. You want to interview Finley and see what she thinks? What did you like your Wazoo?
There's a whole other child here.
You didn't eat much of it. Wait, Jonah. You pulled a lot of your sprinkles off. Don't eat it. Okay.
Are we ready to eat them?
All right, take a look. A lot of Jonah's sprinkles came off. I think it's because he was throwing his around a lot. So here is the wild berries with a Z. He's got the blue raz. We're going to take a bite on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Very sugary.
And very
The outside of mine tastes like purple bubble yum. It feels like you're chewing gum, and this has just got sort of a fruity, it's like nougat, fruity nougat. Jonah, let me try a bite of yours. What's yours taste like? What's Trey?
inside yours?
Show her yours.
I can't really tell what the outside feels like.
Okay,
It's just
you want
like
to trade just for a bite?
Let the boy speak.
chewy, gooey flavor that I can't.
No, he must be Italian. That's what I do.
I count 3 with switch. 1, 2, 3. Hope this is gonna be good. On the count of 3 we eat.
Well, I'm so chewy. Go ahead. Not so big. You can't eat it quickly. There's a lot of stuff in there.
You have to savor it, damn it.
No. No. Not a fan of that flavor. Are you a fan of my flavor? You want this one instead? You like the blue?
Besides those lots, I'm a fan of both.
That was not very good. Anyway, Wazoo. Perfect for kids, I'm sure, because it's colorful and mega sweet and has a funny commercial.
Actually, I prefer the aftertaste of this.
You do? Like you don't like it right at first?
But then I start to get the feeling of a good flavor. Pink. And the pieces in the
Oh!
The blue, not
Let me have
good.
a bite of the blue.
I feel like you could have gotten a tripod and let everyone be on camera at once.
We're gonna be sick. You okay? You don't like it?
I don't like the blue. I like the blue. I want to taste the blue. I do like it a little.
It's raspberry.
I do like it a little.
Okay.
Very strong raspberry.
Alright, so that's a Todd vlog. Wazoo bars. I would give them a grown-up thumbs down. I wouldn't see a grown-up ever wanting to buy those.
Joke's on you. It's all I think about. Here's a video I found on YouTube from Cab1990, who is world renowned for his Fun with Helium series.
Hi people. You were looking for the Wazoo bar. I wonder if you still have it, or if you have it at all. What's that right there? Does that say Wazoo? Found it at Walmart. Yeah. I'm awesome, man. Subscribe, please.
He's an arrogant child who unknowingly mocks me. The video is just him showing off the fact that he found a Wazoo bar for 30 seconds. It's still more than I'm accomplishing in this hour-long video. This does definitely show the scarcity culture that surrounded the Wazoo bar at the time. Here's a YouTube review of the Wazoo bar from 2009, created by user AwesomeForce2009. I hope he's doing alright.
Hi guys, and I'm here to introduce you guys to a new favorite candy bar.
Thank God, a man of culture.
And it is called Wazoo! Shake that silver boy! Wazoo, do that soldier boy. Crank that soldier boy. Wow. Anyways, it's chewy, fruity candy sprinkled with crunchies. Wild berries. Awesome package. You can find it at Walmart.
Apparently Walmart was the place to find these things. That's not where I got mine.
It looks like a purple turd with candies on it. Look at the fruity goodness. Joyful joyness, Candy Mountain! Ooh, Charlie, Candy Mountain, Charlie. But, stuff is so good. I bought 2. That's how much I like them. They're only 64 cents with tax, so.
Delicious and affordable. How could it be any better?
$1.36 with tax. Okay, there's 64 cents. I bought 2, and with tax, it was $1.36 total. But anyways, I'm gonna eat it for you now. Not eat it for you, but eat it for me. But they
He's definitely chewing it a lot. Maybe it is made of Play-Doh.
They're made by Laffy Taffy.
He's wrong about the Laffy Taffy part. Laffy Taffy is made by Wonka, which is under the Nestle umbrella. If Laffy Taffy disappeared from this earth and was replaced by Wazoo, then I would be convinced that God exists.
Try them. They're good. Laffy Taffy rocks. Shake that Laffy Taffy. The Laffy Taffy girl, shake that Laffy. Later.
The comments here are fun. People calling him drunk, people hitting on him, people insulting him and praising him. He's truly a dashing rogue, a figure of great controversy. And here we see people spreading lies under the video. I can find these online. Where? Yeah, I'd like to know. You can buy these on Amazon. No, you f***ing can. Some people are talking about the kazoozles. The f*** is a kazoozle? This video is about kazoozles now. Oh, here's another comment. The Wazoo reminds this person of the cotton candy blizzard from Dairy Queen. Alright, here goes nothing. Let's see if they have this treat for me. It's funny because Dairy Queen is nowhere near me, so I'm actually an hour away from my house. This shit is gonna melt so fast. It's got little things inside of it. I guess those are the crunchies from the Wazoo bar. I've gotta like pause and meditate for a minute to reflect on the taste of the Wazoo bar before I eat this. I might cry. It's seriously bringing me back, man. I was afraid I'd forget the Wazoo bar taste from eating this, but like, Nah, it's spot on. The cotton candy blizzard is pretty close to the Wazoo taste, for those of you who are missing it. It's definitely missing some of the fruity sourness that the Wazoo had, but as a substitute, it's not bad. And no, this is not a sponsorship. A lot of people said that they knew about the Wazoo, but it was never available to them, so I've been trying to map out where exactly they could find it. I'm basing this map off of people's comments that I found on the internet, but also 2 Reddit posts that I made in r/candy and r/nostalgia. From personal experience, I can confirm that the Wazoo was available in New York City and New York State. This user confirms that they were available in Ocean City, Maryland, and from there we can sort of assume that it was available in Delaware and New Jersey. This person mentions having the candy in Massachusetts. I assume Connecticut and Rhode Island also had it. Initially I thought that Wazoo was only available in a few states on the East Coast. This was because Tops is located in Battery Park in Manhattan. I know that they sell things across the country. I assumed that with a new candy they would keep it a limited release to kind of test the waters. However, the map started expanding when I read one comment about someone having access to it in Texas. Another person says that they never saw the Wazoo in Texas, but they specified that they're from North Texas where there's a bunch of small towns. From this, I assume it was only available in larger cities, or in corporate chain stores like Walmart. This one person claims to have had it in Chicago, and another person says they had it in West Virginia, and this one says they had them in Kentucky. From this, we can assume that Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana had access to the candy. This person says they had the Wazoo in Atlanta, Georgia, and this one says they had them in Florida. Another person claims they had them in Tennessee. From this, we can assume that most of the southern United States had access to the candy. So was Wazoo only available in the eastern United States? And on top of it, was it only available in more populated regions? Well, no. Or at least no to the first one. This one commenter claims that they had the Wazoo in California, which makes sense to me. It's one of the larger states, one of the more populated states. You would want to access that market. But then this other person claims that they had it in Utah. So these both blow my entire East Coast theory out of the water. It makes sense that it would be in California, but Utah? You're telling me Mormons are getting freaky with the Wazoo? Next you'll tell me it was available for all the 12 people that live in Wyoming. Just make the whole US yellow. The one thing I know for sure is that the Wazoo was strictly American.
You've got mail.
Oh, what's this? This one Reddit user claims to have found the Wazoo in Spain. Which is just so random. Change the map again. They found the candy in San Sebastian, where there's a lot of Chinese stores for alcohol and snacks. Apparently Wazoo loved to travel the globe. I didn't know it was an international candy. I wanted to include this brief segment to talk about the wrapper of the bar. It may seem strange to talk about, but the design of the wrapper really popped out to me as a kid. I feel like it fits the candy well. The abstract shapes and colors are a lot of fun. It just screams 2009. You can really tell that there's that connection to Tops because the Wazoo text looks a lot like the Bazooka text. I think this is a perfect wrapper design. If only I knew what was going through their minds when they designed it.
So I am Amy Ewells. Throughout the industry, actually, I was Amy Dresner Ewells. So I had been in the industry a long time before I got married. That's my little history. I have been working in consumer industry for a really long time, CPG. So I've worked for companies like Colgate-Palmolive, Danone or Danone for North America, where I've started up and I ran the whole design department. I also worked at Bayer Diabetes Care. And right before that, I worked for Tops, which I headed up the design department there, which was where we created Wazoo, Bazooka, Ring Pop, Push Pop, Juicy Drop Pop, and then any kind of new product innovation, which was Wazoo. That was something that we worked on for a while. But we wanted something really different. And we also wanted to take into consideration what the actual bar looked like. And that bar went through so many different iterations. When we first started putting together the bar, I had given recommendations of colors for the bar. So it first started out where there was a nougat inside, and then it was covered with white chocolate, and we had taffy on top, and hard crunchies, sour hard crunchies. And then there was a problem with the nougat and the white chocolate. There was condensation, and it made the nougat runny. So we had to change that. So there were a lot of iterations, but in the end, when you looked at the bar and you opened it up, it was really cool. It was very bright and colorful and different. And so we wanted that wrapper to be really bright and colorful, and kind of signify like, wow, it's like a party in your mouth, right? So that was the look that we were looking for, is to take some of the colors from the bar and the crazy colors from there and put it on the wrapper. And then the logo was really important, to design something that was very unique and ownable and also very fun and crazy, because that's what the bar was like. It was one of my favorite projects that we worked on. And we actually worked with a design agency, Bill Goodwin Designs, to help create all of that stuff. So I worked very, very closely with them, gave them art direction. And then we met with the printer and we talked to the printer just to make sure that the colors were nice and bright. There weren't any issues printing the actual wrapper. And then, like I said before, we also worked with the company that produced the boxes that they came in, to make sure that the colors were bright and it was consistent from the wrapper to the box, and the whole display, the whole thing was all consistent.
Were there any like alternative designs or like ideas that were being floated around that were like really starting to stick?
Not as much as this one, not as much as the final. Whenever I create any designs, or whenever I work with agencies to create designs, there's never one. You never do just one. You do a bunch, usually anywhere from 8 to 12 totally different designs with different feelings. And then you take maybe the top 2 or 3 and you massage them a little bit and put a little more detail in, because you know what they say, devil's in the details. There's always devils in the details. That's what makes it special. So there were some, but nothing as impactful as the final. They thought it really matched, like when they saw it, they were like, oh, this looks so cool. And then they opened it up and it kind of matched the feeling of the bar, and biting into the bar, like that feeling was there. And that's exactly what I wanted to happen. And so I got some samples before the designers even got to start designing. I had gotten some samples and gave them out, so that like if you close your eyes and you take a bite of that bar, you get images, you know, at least as a designer myself, right? I get certain images when I try a product, whether it's a drink or a candy bar, or even something like a deodorant. When you put it on, there's a smell, right? There's not a taste of deodorant, obviously. For this, when you bit into the candy, there was a taste and a smell that evoked some sort of feeling as you're tasting it, right? So we were trying to get that feeling to come out in the design itself. And so it was really important for the designers to taste the product so that they can get that emotion out and onto the package. The consumer has to have that emotional connection with the brand. You know, even medicine, where it should look a little more clinical. For something that was confection, so when I worked at Tops, I was in charge of all the confection brands. And so you still want, especially for candy, right? You want that emotional connection. It's got to be fun. And to have kids try it, if it looks dull and boring, they're going to be like, yeah, no, I don't want that. You know, I'll buy something else, another product that looks more fun, looks tasty, looks sour, whatever it is. They need that emotional connection there. So if you can't get that out of the pack design, you're kind of working with a handicap to sell it.
So there was also a very weird commercial for the candy bar, and I'm wondering if you had any connection or hand in producing that.
I got to see it, and then they asked for my opinion and made some little tweaks here and there. So the team, when we were putting it together, the team worked on it, the advertising team, and then we all kind of met and discussed what was working, what wasn't. But I wasn't in charge of making the whole commercial. I wanted to make sure that whatever we did still had that same feeling. Again, like it's all back to that emotional feeling or the look. And so we wanted to make sure that that was consistent from commercial to packaging to any of the advertising that we do. It's really important to have that visual language or visual essence to be consistent across all those touch points.
You definitely have. Did you enjoy the Wazoo bar? Because as I'm researching, a lot of people are like 50-50.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I like the early one just slightly better only because there's more nougat in there. And I'm a big nougat person, but I was so upset when it was discontinued. not the crazy part, but the base part of that reminded me of a Zero Bar. I don't know if you've ever tried Zero Bar. It's in a silver wrapper with blue letters, and it was one of my favorites from when I was little. It's like covered with white chocolate, and there's nougat inside. Hey, what a surprise. But like Five Below, if you ever see Five Below, they're usually in there. Try it. So the base part of it was reminiscent of that Zero Bar, which was, a favorite from when I was little. But then we put taffy on, and then crunchies and great color, and just really made it so much fun. So it's definitely one of my favorite projects. It's definitely a pet project. Anytime there's new innovation, it's one of the favorite things to do. I love doing basic things, but things that are a little bit strange and obscure are a hell of a lot more fun. So it was definitely one of my favorite projects to work on.
It's clear that Amy Yules is very talented and passionate about her craft, and this wrapper design is evidence of that. For such a short-lived candy with mixed reactions, you'd think there wouldn't be any advertising for it, right?
Wrong!
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Candy Crunchies, Fruity Taffy, and Sweet Coating all come together in the new Wazoo bar. Excite your taste buds with Wazoo.
The Wazoo commercial was just as memorable as the candy itself. This came out at a time when fun candy commercials were really popular, like these Hubba Bubba ones.
Just looking at it gives me goosebumps. I mean, which is odd because I'm so not a goose.
See, these are the kinds of ads that I like. Anybody else sick of BoJack Horseman trying to blow his load in your mouth?
Are you drooling? Good.
The Wazoo commercial is definitely really weird, but I always thought it was funny. The taste buds are so adamant about getting that Nickelodeon slime in their mouths, and it comes off a little weird. This commercial is played on a loop in my mind for over a decade, and that jingle at the end still sticks with me. After digging a little bit, I managed to find outtakes of this commercial on Vimeo.
Candy Crunchies, Fruity Taffy, and Sweet Coating all come together in the new Wazoo bar. Excite your taste buds with Wazoo.
There's an extended version of the taste buds singing.
Wazoo! 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 Wazoo!
There's other takes of them basically begging for the candy.
Hey, puppy! Oh, yeah! Hey, puppy! Hey, puppy!
Smells fruity.
On my face! On my face!
On my face. On my face.
This is gonna happen. Oh, it's on, baby! It's on! Yeah!
Oh, I'm extremely excited about what's about to happen. Extremely excited.
Oh, sweet, sweet succulence.
Ay, caramba!
It's so beautiful.
Yes! Yeah! You guys are covered in awesome! Oh, that just happened! You look delish! Hi, puppy! Ah! Oh. Yes, that is what I am talking about!
This is exciting. You know what? Being a taste bud is an extremely thankless job, and this has all made it worthwhile. And I'd like to thank everybody. If I'm the umami taste bud, this is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It doesn't get any better. Do you understand it doesn't get any better than this? This is an absolute pinnacle of my life as a taste bud.
And there are brief clips of them suiting up in these super uncomfortable looking costumes.
Oh my god, it's alive.
It's like Terminator 2.
How's that feel?
At the bottom right of the commercial, they advertise wazoocandy.com, but I couldn't find the website myself. I found out that some people think the Wazoo commercial is a ripoff of a Budweiser ad campaign from the 70s.
And now from Budweiser, the Taste Buds.
Pizza, pizza! I want the mushroom! Wait a minute, you hate pizza!
I do, but I love what we get with it.
What's that? Well, now, what tastes better with pizza than maybe anything else in the I said world? I don't know.
Give me a Budweiser. Budweiser asks, why do you think they call them Taste Buds anyway?
And further still, people think that this Snickers commercial ripped off the Budweiser and Wazoo commercial. The Snickers one only came out 2 years after the Wazoo one.
Snickers ice cream, Snickers ice cream, Snickers ice cream, Snickers ice cream.
Snickers ice cream. It's what your taste buds want.
And further still, there's this commercial for Kissel yogurt that features talking taste buds.
Oh, hi. My name is Bud. We're Taste Buds. Now, all buds are different. There are sweet buds that like fresh, fruity things. Fresh and fruity, fresh and fruity. And sourpusses. We're into things like yogurt. Makes them pucker. Thankfully, now there's Kissel. Here it comes. They're gonna love it. Because Kissel has the same nutritious ingredients as yogurt, but none of the cultures that make yogurt taste sour. Kissel gives you more fruit flavor without the pucker. Right. Does it come in pickle? Does it come in pickle? Listen to your taste buds. Don't pucker, just Kissel.
Leave a comment below which personified taste bud commercial you think is the sexiest. I meant what I said. Still, the commercial is pretty funny and captures the energy of the candy. I wish I had some inside knowledge on the creation of the commercial.
My name is Mike Boyce. I'm a creative director and a copywriter. About 14 years ago, I got a brief to write a commercial for the Wazoo candy bar. At the time, I was a junior copywriter working with an agency called Uproar. You know, in preparation for this, I was going back through hard drives last night trying to find do I have those old decks still? What else did we pitch? Because I know what we created was insane, but we pitched equally, if not more, insane ideas. And I wish those had not been lost to time. They might still be hidden somewhere in a hard drive in my apartment, but it'll take some excavating to find those. What I remember about that bar, kind of similar to you, I actually have very fond memories of that candy bar. I grew up, I was allergic to everything as a kid. I still have an allergy to peanuts and tree nuts and all those things. So a lot of candy bars I can't have those. So for me, the Wazoo bar, that was the closest thing I had ever had to an actual candy bar experience. Most chocolatey candy bars, they've got some nut element to them. I had a hidden stock of them at my desk. Once I found out they were going off shelves, I got clients to get me a box of them that I just held on to, and I far past the expiration date, I was eating those.
How long did they last you?
I don't want to say.
Totally valid. I get that. If it was me, I would have been holding one in my freezer forever. I'm someone's gonna buy this on eBay for $3,000.
If only I had that foresight. How we landed on that idea really was, it was all in the tagline, which was, if I'm remembering it correctly, it was something like "Excite your taste buds," because there really is just there's a ton of different flavors and textures and just overall varieties of sweetness happening in that bar. So we wanted, landing on that tagline kind of led us to the creation of those taste buds characters, and really scripting those taste buds. That all happened really on the spot. We hired and casted just a ton of improv actors. So the taste buds that you're seeing in the spot, there's actually only 5 of them. We, digitally replicated them all kind of across the tongue to create this army of them. But there's really just 5 people there, and those were all they all had improv backgrounds, and We have some version of a script that we did film, but a lot of what you see in the final spot was just them kind of like riffing and just kind of like really getting into that moment. That was one of, I was super young at the time and like new to the industry. So that was one of my very first shoots. I remember, again, this was 14 years ago. I can't remember the name of the production company that we worked with, but I know the director's name was Rao, who is this amazing, eccentric like illustrator. He makes a ton of music videos as well. We brought him on board and really together, like we crafted this set that was very heavily inspired by like old Nickelodeon shows. I think you were saying you saw this commercial when you were 9. So the shows that I would have seen when I was 9, like old Double Dare episodes and like the game shows that Nickelodeon used to do where it was just like fully grotesque and like everything was just kind of out of you felt like you were in a fever dream. There were kind of 2 different shoots happening on the day. We had the shot of the hero boy character, like the kid who's eating the candy bar. That was like half an hour maybe of the day. Like that kid was in and out. And then the rest of the day was like, we shot that and then just kind of turned the camera around and into this like Narnia of insanity, where we had built just this like gigantic, like 6-foot mouth, and just had this like this piece of like tarp, like latex tarp thing that we just kind of like cut holes in for like the taste buds to kind of like push their heads through. It was just a super fun shoot. We didn't have a ton of time to shoot it, so we couldn't really overthink things. We just had to kind of like leave the camera on and let things happen. All of the moments where like the sprinkles are kind of like hitting the tongue, like we had just like gigantic like gym like bouncy balls or like dodgeballs that we were just throwing at them as they're like trapped on the tongue. I genuinely thought we were almost about to kill someone on the set. Like there's a moment where one of the taste buds is just getting he's almost being waterboarded by this like blue goop, and you can in the outtakes there's a moment where you can hear him like gasp for breath and like realize like, okay, I could still breathe. I'm gonna just keep going. I had forgotten about that moment entirely until just rewatching, but I think that was the last shot that we got, because after that it was like, no, if we push this any further, there might be some liabilities here.
I was actually going to ask if you remembered what the slime was made of, because I'm like, that's in his mouth. Like, that's like this plastic goop.
It wasn't plastic. Our production company made it, so I'm not exactly sure what it was. I want to say it's probably like cornstarch based. This wasn't like a super high budget commercial either. Like this was maybe just a half day shoot. So this was just some background on that agency. Uproar was an agency that specialized in youth marketing. So everything else that we worked on, like we worked primarily on Hasbro. I did a ton of work on like Hasbro board games, like Trivial Pursuit and Clue, Monopoly, all of those. And one of our other clients was Topps, who like most people know of as like they make like baseball cards, but they also own a ton of candy, like candy brands. So they owned Bazooka Joe, Baby Bottle Pop, and Wazoo. And the Wazoo one, like they had no intention, as far as I know, there was no intention of it being such a short-lived product. There was like some manufacturing issue for it that kind of like stopped them as soon, like very soon after it hit shelves.
So there's definitely a lot of suggestive language in the outtakes as well.
There is a lot of that in there, and that was all like none of that was scripted. That was purely like there's a longer take in the outtakes that is just kind of the camera's just rolling and you can see them just like landing on lines and continuing to shout them out. That's where that came from. That was absolutely not a planned moment there. No, and the outtakes too, like those were never like officially released by the company. Like those are just like moments that we kind of cut together as our, our own edit of the day. This was, so the way we typically get briefs for commercials like that, like you're either making, typically like you'll get a brief for like a campaign, and like you want there to be more to it. Like you want it to be like this fully integrated effort where like you've got commercials, you've got print, you've got out of home, you've got digital and social. Now social wasn't really a thing back then, but you want to make it a bigger effort. That does all require more money though, to be put into it. So this was meant to be just kind of like a launch video for them. This was just like a one-off spot that we were creating. I don't believe Wazoo actually had a national rollout. I think it might have only been available in the Tri-City area. I could be wrong about that, but I know Topps was based, their offices were down in Battery City. And I believe it was like very much like a regional thing just to like test, like, is there interest in this? Like, is it going to be a thing that's going to help us build our business later on? So the video for that was really just a one-off, like, let's get this out there. Let's see kind of how this hits and see if this is going to be a bigger thing. Our clients were happy with it. I remember it being a very like straightforward edit with not much feedback. And like, it was really kind of like a breeze. Like the second we started seeing cuts, everyone knew like, yes, this is funny. We've got the right jokes. Like we've got too many things to kind of pull from, especially for a 15-second commercial. So the biggest struggle was like finding the right moments to fit into the final like 15 seconds that made it to broadcast. I do remember this is one of the only times this has happened, because I haven't written many like jingles in my career, but very soon after the commercial aired, the girl I was dating at the time, she lived in a building on Fifth Avenue in the Village, and I was going to visit her, and I was in the elevator there, and like a family was in the elevator, and the kids, like I had headphones in, but I heard something that sounded familiar, so I took out my headphones, and the kids were like singing the rap at the end. And that was a really cool moment, because it was like, all right, this actually like hit, and like people are enjoying it. And like that was one of the first times I had heard or seen one of the commercials that I had been involved in creating actually like kind of permeate culture in a way.
Yeah, that rap definitely stuck with me like to this day. Like I've been humming it since I was 9 years old. And I'm like and I kept doing it all these years. No, I liked it. I really did. My problem was that I kept humming it. And I'm like, damn, like I wish I had a Wazoo bar to like, go along with this.
I wish I could take any sort of credit for that. But really, like that was one of those moments where in between shots, one of the guys playing one of the taste buds started like beatboxing, and one of the other guys just like picked up on it, and that just happened. We did not plan on that being a thing that we were going to film, but once this started happening, it's like hit record immediately. Like we need to get this on tape. And I'm so glad that we did, because like that moment in particular, like that really just kind of landed and brought together that entire commercial. The only other thing I would say is, have you tried reaching out to Arturo Castro?
Oh no, who's that?
So he's one of the taste buds. He has made a career. Like he's in, you'd recognize him actually like without the face paint, probably. I believe he is in Broad City, and there was a recent Apple TV show with Joseph Gordon-Levitt that he was in as well. I keep seeing his name announced for upcoming projects, and he has, if you Google his name, you will find like he has talked about this commercial.
I believe one of your first roles was actually as a tongue or a taste bud.
A taste bud inside a giant
Let's
tongue.
talk more about that.
It's so funny because they had like this sort of weird description. It was like, okay, this taste bud is like sultry and foreign and sensitive. I'm like, my only line is like Wazoo, like, like coming right out of drama school. I'm like, I get it.
He was always my favorite.
I love that you have a favorite taste bud. When we were filming kind of like the the pull-out shot from the tongue where like you see kind of like all of the taste buds on it. We had a ton of styrofoam heads that were just like on the tongue for like placement, so we could comp those out later. I have one of those still, actually. Like, it's on my bookshelf at home, and it's just painted like the same pink as all the makeup that all the guys were put in. You know, that commercial really was like, it was very early in my career, and I wish I remembered more from it. But it is still like one of my favorites, like, productions that I've been involved with.
It was great speaking with Mike Boyce. He's a cool guy and he clearly loves what he does. Still, a commercial isn't only made by one person. I wish I had more information about the art direction of the project.
Basically, I had started working at Curious Pictures as kind of like an overall production PA, but like art PA, because at the time I was quite new to stop motion animation, commercial industry in general. And the first meeting I ever got, which was a friend through a friend kind of strange thing, was with Ro. And I took my portfolio, and he was really the first director that ever kind of saw something in my portfolio in work and hired me. And at the time, you know, it was maybe at least a year or two before Wazoo, but at the time he didn't have anything that he could hire me, but we just kept in touch, and we kind of became friends and are still very close friends to this day. And he's almost, you know, he's almost like an older brother kind of mentor figure to me. I love him dearly. I just remember getting a phone call from him about some candy commercial, and he basically knew that, you know, I could handle the kind of art direction end of whatever needed to happen. And it you know, happened relatively quickly. I think within a week or so, we were in the studio, and you know, that was my beginning of that. You know, I didn't go to art school. I knew that I wanted to work in film and animation and any kind of like art department production, but I really didn't know anybody. But at that point, I was maybe 23 or so, and I had just moved to New York City 2 years prior to that. So I was kind of just bouncing around, working on a lot of different things. You know, in general, Curious Pictures, anything that Ro was working on and his director partner at the time, they were always doing something really, really fun. And I, you know, in general, I was always down to work with those guys in any capacity, and still do. Ro and another director friend of mine who I'm currently working with now, I mean, we romanticize about the Curious Pictures days, because not only was it the content that they were known for, you know, like Broadway Arts, I think, was the original company. You know, they did Pee-wee's Playhouse and Celebrity Deathmatch, and they were kind of the leader of the pack in the sense of like stop motion animation, anything to do with stop motion in New York City. You know, the market kind of shifted a little bit because digital was becoming much more of a faster and a more equitable kind of way for productions to create content, depending on what that content was. But Curious, up until, about like, I guess it was 6 or 7 years ago, you know, they sold the company, I believe, to these producers from LA. Their names escape me. I think they were trying to kind of shift the company into a different, more feature film and stuff. A lot of the animation and stop motion work kind of trickled out. And unfortunately, you know, I think everyone kind of branched out and went their separate directions. You know, Ro went to LA. His other director friend, Abe Spear, you know, moved down south. I just feel lucky that I was able to work there, to be quite honest, at that time, because like, oh, we have another little friend here. It was a really special place where a lot of creativity in general was nurtured. You know, I was actually just talking to Brian Hams, who I'm working with right now, who is still a stop motion and director and puppetry animator and stuff. And, you know, looking back, we didn't really have anything to do with like the business element of like running a business and the clients and like all those things. So in a sense, you know, like there's always another side to what seemed very kind of romantic and whimsical to us. Like But we were like just kind of always the ones tasked to make stuff, like whatever, like a candy bar commercial, we're going to zoom into a kid's mouth and there's going to be a tongue and teeth, and like, how do you go about building that? How long does it take? And what are all the elements to that? So, to get like those strange phone calls that are then fun to kind of like figure out, that was curious, and that was that time. And I'm sure there's other companies that, do, similar creative things to this day, but the vibe that was there was very, still unique, to me, because it's stuck with me all these years. As I mentioned before, Ro as a director is just always a pleasure to work with, because when you work with Ro, he really empowers you, whether you're a writer, whether you're a PA, whether you're a DP, to really use your ability and your talent. And he really knows how to pull out that talent from an individual. And I've seen it many times, but it's an empowering thing. It's kind of liberating in a way that you don't always find in a lot of creatives or directors, because directors are very much like, they can be controlling, they can be very particular, and sometimes that's just the job. But Ro usually surrounds himself with creatives and individuals that he really admires, what they bring to the table. So when you work with Ro, and he was pretty much my only contact that I can remember on the job. I dealt with him directly. So there was always just a lot of trust and a lot of, not a lot of really like, like, you're going to do this, like, this is, you're the art director. And I believe I hired maybe a few other friends to sort of help assist me with like painting. But from the beginning, it was like the tongue was the big thing. I think later on, what ended up occurring was it kind of evolved into this bigger thing, because I believe the initial early concept was it was just going to be a shot with this kind of red, maybe if you're thinking like 6 feet by 6 feet red kind of, I think early on it was going to be like cloth or something. And the guys were going to stick their heads through, and, we were going to have, like, I believe there's swimming caps or some kind of makeup effect, so you, as you see in the commercial, you just see their heads and their taste buds. And, so initially, like, when you get that call and you're kind of processing and everything, it's funny. It's already funny, And so then it becomes about, how do you enhance that comedic element? How do you make that visually representational, like, to the viewer? Like, there were a lot of discussions about, like, how do you make it kind of funny and artistic, but yet, like, for the viewer to understand, like, these are taste buds on a tongue. Because, there are ways that it could go where it could be confusing, to the viewer. So I think I remember I had the idea to make it a bit bigger, the tongue bigger. And I believe it was made out of foam. It was a very large sheet of, I guess, like almost like memory foam or some kind of foam, which then we painted this like latex, which we stretched almost like a canvas over the tongue. And I painted the tongue with different, versions of reds and pinks and stuff. And it kind of had a painterly quality. But it was like a big floppy tongue almost. And then I don't think we were originally going to do teeth, but I had sort of like pushed to do teeth. And I think you only really see in the commercial a very small amount, but I don't think that was ever a plan to do that. And he really liked that idea. So we ended up, getting more foam, like blue foam, and carving what looked like large teeth, So in the front, there was like a whole row. But, then there were discussions about those teeth and what do they look like? And, and again, Ro was always very, trusting in that. When we decided to do that, I began the process, and then he would kind of come in and give notes and things, and that's like always a fun process because he's always he's in meetings and he's in phone calls and he's doing director things, and then when he would come for visits, he would always just be like, wow, like this is crazy, and would love it and give a bunch of notes and then be on his way. And that was the nature of the kind of like the art department side of it, like leading up to the shoot. There were other discussions about the candy that gets dropped down on their heads and stuff. Also the actors, how they physically were going to sit, because you have 4 actors and they're going to be under lights and in this kind of strange set for most of the day. So we had to kind of create like comfortable chairs for them to sit under. I believe there were different actors that were at different heights, so we had to deal with like the chairs, how they would sit, because the tongue needed to be level. And so there was a whole underneath them, there was a whole rig of like chairs and cushions, so they were comfortable and they didn't have to move much, because once they got in there, once they stuck their heads through, we really didn't want them, unless they needed to like go to the bathroom or get something to eat, we really didn't want them to leave, because the latex, I remember, would need to be touched up with paint kind of around their necks and stuff when they would move. And it was just like, in general, getting when it came to the shooting day, it was funny, it was like they were really like great spirited. Everyone just in general really loved the idea and the concept, and it was fun. So when you have something really fun like that going on, even for the crew, it just creates a good vibe, and everybody on the shooting day was really in general just very positive and like, let's make this cool commercial as great as we can. And I believe that I remember the clients came by too, and they were just really, I think they might have had some kids. I remember some kids being there as well who also liked the candy bar. And it was a very fun experience in general. Everyone was very happy with it. There was a big discussion about, so the what is meant to be the taffy that falls down on their heads, I believe that's a pancake batter with food coloring dyes in them. And so that was another thing, was figuring out what one, I believe there's a shot of the guy actually licking it. And so everything was like edible, and so there was like kind of, we might have even had a food stylist that we had to bring in, just to be professional about it and mix up the batter. And we might have had a designated person that dealt with that. But I believe it was pancake batter, and that there were all discussions about that, And then the little dots of candy are, I believe, just balls, like different size, like kickballs and softballs, and they were all these different balls, and then we painted them, coated them and stuff. The 5 individuals that Roe chose for the actors were all individual, very funny guys. And so I remember there was a lot of ad-lib stuff that went on, which is very unusual. You don't really see a lot of that in commercials because, there's a lot of money and time and people's time involved. So you don't really see a lot of like improvising. But these guys, I recall, they were all really individually funny. And that's another thing that Roe is very observant. And so I think there were several things that he kind of allowed them to just try. The scheduling of the day was, we only had one tongue. And once we used the batter and everything, everything was going to get messy. So we had to plan the day for basically doing all of the first clean shots and getting all that out of the way. And then the ad-lib stuff, like the rap. And then we did the fun part, dropping the balls and the pancake batter and everything. And, once we got into that territory, then that's when it got very like funny and silly and messy. but yeah, but it was just in general, it was a lot of fun. Even kind of remembering it, reminiscing about it now, it was a fun day. I believe I did eat the candy. I remember they had at the craft service table, I believe they had the Wazoo candy bar. And to be quite honest, I don't 100% remember. It was like a taffy thing, kind of, wasn't it? I remember it being very, yes, flavorful and intense. It was kind of like an intense candy bar. And, you know, the flavor of it, it didn't really stick with me as far as in my memory. It was like literally that moment, you know, like that moment of a kind of a one-time, one-off kind of thing. And the commercial was the, you know, the representation of that. That's funny to hear now. Well, not necessarily funny. I mean, it would be cool if it was still around, but that just means that we were really lucky to be able to do this commercial.
Sean O'Connor gave a lot of great wisdom about the business of creativity. I'm glad I got the chance to hear about his experiences. He mentioned that the company Curious Pictures was the driving force behind the commercial, and I figured I would do some research. Curious Pictures produced shows like Pee-wee's Playhouse, Elmo's World, Cyber Chase, and Codenamed Kids Next Door. They produced movies like Star Trek the Motion Picture and Black Swan. And they produced video games like Rock Band, GTA, Red Dead Redemption, and Grey's Anatomy, the video game.
Well, I certainly can't compete with Joe Pesci.
I don't know. I bet you look pretty sexy when you say, "My clown, do I amuse you?" A lot more so than the chief, anyway.
Am I a clown? Do I amuse you?
Now back to the Wazoo commercial. Mike Boyce and Sean O'Connor both mentioned Rohitosh Rao as the director of this commercial. With such weird and fun visuals, you've got to wonder what was going through his head.
So basically I started out as an art director, and after about 4 years, I started to realize that I had other callings that I wanted to pursue, and that was mainly filmmaking, live action originally, and then into specifically animation. And I think partly what got me, you know, excited about all of it was I liked the idea of kind of like this kind of combo platter. Maybe a better word is like experimental, maybe filmmaking. I like combining live action with a little bit of animation, maybe stop motion, maybe CG, maybe building puppets, maybe, you know, kind of combining like miniature sets with like live action. And a lot of it just became, I just like this combo kind of surrealness of what I've always, what I've been brought up with in film. And I grew up with shows like HR Puffin stuff and Sesame Street and you know, a place where like a lot of, it was a hybrid world. It was like Muppets can live among real people. You know, I mean, dolls can live amongst, you know, just regular, like, you know, people. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, you had like these puppets living like in this closet, I think, or something. I mean, he had a train that would transfer to another parallel universe. I mean, that's the kind of childhood I had. So it's not a surprise that later in life I started to do this kind of combo of like live action, animation, stop motion, claymation, whatever world. So that's, you realize that's just in your blood. And so that's what I started to do. And I spent many years trying to be like this I don't know, like a traditional maybe filmmaker. And even now, like a lot of the jobs that I do, I try to not do the same thing twice. So sometimes when people call me, it's hit or miss. People will call me and they go, "Hey, I want you to do a project." And I go, "Cool. Can I do it this way?" They're like, "Well, what's that way? I haven't seen that way from you before." And I'm like, "Right. I've never done that way before. That's why I want to do it." Which they're like, "Oh, you want to do something completely new?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, okay, shit. That's cool. Okay. You know what? Let's try it." And then thankfully, a lot of people have been giving me, they've been brave enough to give me the shot to make something new and different. But that's constantly why I like filmmaking and why I like the combo of like, again, coming from a stop motion love and also just a regular film live action love, because I want to just constantly be experimental and make stuff that I haven't made before. I first worked with them. I think I did a spot for baby bottle pop. You know, have you seen that? It's like you're sucking on these sugar, like this kind of like, you know, like powdered sugar or whatever.
Like the nipple thing.
Yeah, so that was like my first project with them, and we made like this like all girl band music video where they're singing the song. And I you know, the beauty of stuff like sugar in a category of advertising, you can do kind of weird, funny, bizarre stuff because, you know, as advertising is for that market, like there really isn't, you're not really selling anything. I mean, you're selling like a candy bar, you're selling a sugar product, and all it has to be is fun, and I think it works. So that's, I think, the approach for even the stuff that I've always loved about advertising in the world of that category. It's just make it, if it's fun, I think you've hit the mark perfectly. So I think that was the first project. I think it went over well. It was just like this all girl band, kind of kid girl band singing the song, and it was just, I think we all had a really good time, and it was just ridiculous. And then like, we have this thing called Wazoo, we're gonna do a commercial, and the idea was that there was just talking taste buds, and talking taste buds is such an open-ended brief. I mean, how, and you know, what does that look like and all that. And so I think it was kind of a conversation about what could we do. And I think the initial approach was to make it into claymation, make these claymation taste buds. But then if you think about a time it would take, and I kept thinking about like the famous Will Vinton California Raisins commercial. I think that may have come to mind at the time. And I'm thinking, man, that, from what I heard, took a long time to animate all those claymation raisins. They have to not only sing or talk or whatever, but they got to like move, and you got to animate that, you know, you got to, and there's like the taste buds is obviously plural. So it's what, like 20 taste buds? You got to animate all the taste buds on a tongue. It just seems so much bigger that way. So I'm like, wait, live action. Let's do a live action set of taste buds. Well, then we got to build a giant tongue, because you got to put the heads of the people like as taste buds on the tongue, but the tongue has to be the size of like this room, right? To put like what, 10 people as taste buds sitting on chairs on a giant tongue, sitting like, you know, at like this height, so they can put their heads through it. So we had to obviously cover their faces like red or pink or whatever, and then put like the kind of skull cap matching color over them. And it was the most uncomfortable thing, I'm sure, in the world. And you had to like rig it so it would be, you know, in the physicality where they didn't have to like hit each other, you know, and kind of be somewhat distant, but also close together. So it was like this math problem. How do you build a giant tongue? People can sit comfortably, not have to worry about like, you know, hitting each other while they're talking, singing, or whatever. And also, this is the part that you don't think about until you're doing it. How can they easily get up and go to the bathroom if they need to, right? Because you're shooting. So you got to make it easy for them to be able to go, I got to run right now and take a 5-minute break. So, which once you built the big set, the big tongue, now you got to match the big tongue to a smaller version, so you can match cut it to go from the kid's mouth to a secondary tongue, which then can, in a way, morph into cut to the big tongue. So you had to have like 2 tongues, 2 mouths, you know, teeth, the whole thing. And it was a giant production. I mean, it became, for what, like 10 seconds of, I don't even know, like, you know, by the time you get to that close-up shot of the people singing, the guys, the taste buds, it's like hours, days of building for that amount of few seconds. But a lot of that comes from my love of animation, my stop motion love. So the idea of building sets, especially, you know, even though it was a macro set for the size of and scale of a human head, but we had to do a miniature set to get into that human head scale. So it was a miniature set. So all that comes from my love of stop motion set building. So if I didn't have that combined with my obviously love of live action, working with, you know, actual people, so that kid led to that miniature set mouth, led to the big set mouth. Like that's like a perfect, I think, combo platter of everything I think I've ever done and loved into, you know, one commercial. The biggest problem we had was a shot where they're pouring the liquid sugar over their heads. The last shot is like, or what the shot is basically, the whole idea about a Wazoo bar is it has this internal liquid in the middle of the bar and it squirts out, right? So that's like the big sell of the candy bar. So at some point, that's the taste buds have to be covered in this like reddish goo that comes over their faces. And the thing is, once you cover their faces with that goo, you can't go backwards as far as production goes. You can't like take it off of them. The goo is now it's in everything. It's on the tongue, it's on the set, it's on their faces, and they're wearing makeup. So if you take off the goo, you take off the makeup with it. So you had to be very, very sure by the time we got to that goo shot that we were done with all the other, covered everything else. So that was the only like, real like kind of scary part as a director, just working in the production in general, saying like, okay, we are officially saying we have everything we need prior to this, and we're okay to like now go completely overboard and cover them with like the sugar, liquid. And then once that happened, it was just like, probably maybe another hour of shooting because they can't breathe with the stuff over their face. So you got to like, very like your clock is suddenly, moving a lot faster. But it was fun. And the part that is not in the video, in the commercial, which I wish was there, they did an entire song, like the end of the song where they're doing like a 3-second, like Wazoo, like that whole thing. They do a 1-minute version of that. And it's like a beatbox, all improv. Like that was not, we just said, let's just keep going and see how far we can go. I don't know if I have the footage. Let me see if I can dig it up. But we have a 1-minute video of just that beatbox song, which could have been its own commercial by itself because it didn't even need the setup of the kid opening the mouth, going into the tongue, going into the taste buds. It was just that. And it could be a standalone little, cool little, even 15-second spot. I don't think they ever did it, but we shot it.
I found the footage of that on Vimeo.
You did?
Yeah, and I could send you a link to that.
Please. Oh my God, I've been trying to find that forever. I was even trying to find even my own hard drive of just like, just footage from that day. But I'm so glad he kept that. That's so cool. This is kind of why live action, when it works, is amazing, because that was like improv at that point. That was just these actors being in that moment going, let's just go for it. And they just went off on that song, and it was so good. And it was so ridiculous because they're just taste buds moving there. You saw it. They're just like random heads singing this bit. And it's like theater. It was like Blue Man Group, it was like this random, like, suddenly like musical theater, surreal musical theater performance that it was no longer an ad. It was like a piece of art.
So were there any sequel ideas, like any follow-up commercials that you had planned?
Well, I thought that was going to be a whole thing, like the idea of having these taste buds be like a set of characters. And again, obviously I'm not the agency, I'm not the writer, I'm not the creative team on this. I was the director, so it's obviously out of my hands on what they wanted to do. But to me, I thought this could be like a really funny, almost like, dare I compare us to the California Raisins, but it could have been like a really fun taste bud series where they just started having the taste buds interact and, almost like individual personalities of taste buds. And that could have been, I think, its own ridiculous, ad campaign. At a certain point, you're going to, hopefully, if it went on long enough, you'd be like, oh, those are the taste buds in the Wazoo, ad campaign. And you may not even need to see the kid anymore. You just go to the taste buds because that's all you, kind of like you're trying to get to, the comedy part. And again, I always thought that could have been a really funny, just like, ongoing ad campaign for Wazoo. Yeah, I mean, I had never heard of it until it was physically, brought to me. And I would tell people in other states, like in California, for example, and they never heard of it. So yeah, I wasn't sure to this day, like where it was officially available and where it wasn't. But yeah, but I mean, I was only aware of it because the project was brought into my, was brought to me, and that was, I had to obviously look it up and be, learn whatever I could about Wazoo prior to the shoot. But other than eating it, I didn't know a lot of people who knew about it. Yeah, I mean, that was it. That was my research. Was I went out, bought some Wazoo, ate it, and I'm like, this is disgusting. But I'll do the commercial. I think it's really fun. I mean, look, I grew up with Twix and stuff like that. And there was another candy bar I'm sure I had as a kid that had like some sort of squirting thing. And I'm all for it. I just think I like especially like the amount of sugar that I think a Wazoo bar at that point in my life, I'm like, I don't need this much sugar in my body. So I think there was partly that too. I have no problem. I mean, I would say in general, I don't think I'm a big, like even now a Snickers fan or any of that. I just don't. If you give me a nice chocolate eclair though, I'll eat the shit out of that. That'll be great. But I don't know. I think I was just a little bit past their audience for that candy bar when I was given it. But if I was if I was 10 years old, it would have been the greatest thing I'd ever eaten. Yeah.
That's why I'm making this, because I had it when I was 9, and I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever eaten. And then I'm like, 13 years later, I'm like, yeah, that was good. Like, what happened to that,
Yeah, I mean, even now, there's certain candy bars. If they came into my life now, I'd probably have a really great. I'd probably want to revisit it because of that 10-year-old version of me that had it way back then, and I'm sure I think Score bar probably my closest candy I could think of, which was like this hard toffee chocolate covered candy. I don't even know if it's still around anymore, but like if that came into my life right now, I'd probably eat it, but only because my 10-year-old self would make me, as opposed to me wanting it. Like I'm not craving it, as an adult. I think I would want it because I want to appease my 10-year-old version, especially if those are your first drugs of sorts. You're not going to forget your first sugar drug. I mean, it's the greatest drug ever. Yeah, there was actually a brand called it was called Tiffany's or it was basically like an almond roca. So it was like this hard like almond roca toffee thing, and it was covered in like chocolate and then covered in nuts. And I don't know why, like I could eat like 30 of those in a night, and I'm sure my mom was like, "You're gonna die," but it was the greatest thing ever, and I couldn't get enough of those. And it was like so Heath Bar, Score, they were all this very, very similar type of candy. That was my greatest drug as a kid. That stuff. And if it was too chocolatey, if it was too soft, I guess that also the texture was probably not so much in my wheelhouse. So for me, like the harder the candy itself, the better. And that's for some reason why I think I could chew it, I could bite on it made a sound, it had texture. I don't know, just that all that made me very excited. If anyone has ever come across my work, especially at that time, like it was very clear that's what the kind of work I wanted to do. I just wanted to do like the weirder you let me go, the better. Like I could just make the weirdest stuff, hopefully, and ideally make you laugh, make you smile, make you just maybe cringe at the same time, but also just it hopefully brought you some joy. And to now, even still, like I look for projects that just let me go do something just bizarre. It doesn't have to be always funny, but I try to make it funny, but I still do weird stuff. And it's just who I am. I just want to just keep pushing that bizarreness, that it's being surreal, it's being ridiculous, it's being funny, it's being comical. I grew up on people like Dr. Demento, Weird Al Yankovic. These are like the musicians that I was playing as a kid. I was looking at Far Side comics as a kid. I was watching shows like H.R. Puff and stuff. So this combination of like surrealism and kind of somewhat like theatrics and beauty and art, all that kind of combined to making stuff what I was doing for the Wazoo spot. And I still think that's still the kind of stuff I still want to make today.
Despite the dismissive tagline at the top of his website, Ro Rao does in fact make cool stuff. His videos feature awesome trippy visuals and great editing. He even worked on the album teaser for Blue Moon by Beck.
Oh my God, you're Beck!
I too try to create weird art, and this commercial is right up my alley. It stuck with me for 13 years. The commercial was brief but unforgettable, just like the candy. I figured I should add a segment about non-Wazoo candy things that share the name Wazoo. First of all, we need to address the Wazoo in the room. Wazoo does, in fact, mean anus. People speculate on the origin of the word. Some think it came from the French term
Oiseau,
meaning bird. Other people think it comes from the Louisiana Creole term razoo, meaning raspberry. There was also a group of Native Americans named the Yazoo who lived in the Mississippi Delta. so maybe the name was adopted into a strange term later on. Some people claim that the term up the wazoo originated in 1961. And of course, it's American.
My kids have been spending me up the wazoo.
There's a company called Wazoo that sells survival gear. There's also a sports network in Kentucky called Wazoo. There's the acronym Wazoo, which stands for Warp Zillion Opus to Opus. This is a session layer protocol for FidoNet. And no, I don't know what any of that means. There's a Wazoo kazoo, which is just a kazoo with a megaphone thing on it. They found a way to make kazoos more annoying. There was, an indoor inflatable play center called Wazoo's in Austin, Texas. Another lost Wazoo. Also, they posted this very ominous meme. And last but not least, there's the album The Grand Wazoo by Frank Zappa, featuring the song The Grand Wazoo. I can't play it here, but it's a surreal piece of music that you should definitely check out. As a conclusion to this video, I'd like to talk about the creators of Wazoo. As I mentioned, the Wazoo was the creation of Daniel Hart and Gary Weiss. The two of them run the company Ripe Design, which focuses on toy and candy inventions. On their website, you can see other candies they've created, like the Juicy Drop Pop. Commercials for their candies are also featured. Gary Weiss's early career was focused in business and the production of sporting goods. He has patents for different candy products. The most recent was the Candy Bear Ring in 2010. He may also have patents for several computer processors, unless this is a different Gary Weiss. If they are the same person, then his most recent patent would be the Object Embedding in Multimedia from 2015. I was unable to find out about his current projects, or if he was still making candy. But given that his last candy patent was from 2010, I would say it's not likely. Dan Hart's early career was focused in advertising and art direction. He shares many of the same candy patents as Gary Weiss under the Ripe Design umbrella. In 1991, Dan met Gary Weiss, and the two licensed their first candy concept, the Smelly Deli. And just like with Gary, it's unclear if Dan still makes candy. It just leaves me wondering.
So, my partner and I, Gary Weiss, we are Ripe Design, and for 30 years now, we've been developing kids' candy products. So we come up with the ideas, we make a presentation to various companies and that we have relationships with, and we try to present a product that is as turnkey as possible. So one of the products that we developed way back in the day was Juicy Drop Pop. You know, it's definitely our biggest hit of all time. It's our big home run, and I'm sure you grew up with that product. And I have a few sons that are kind of around your age, in the ballpark, and they've always been my candy testers, and so it's been a lot of fun. Well, getting back to the Juicy Drop Pop, that was a product that I developed with my partner, and we brought it to Tops. They absolutely love the concept. We could tell they were going to go with it one way or another, and the fact that it was successful has been great. It's probably been 16 years now that product's been on the market. It really, I think, cemented our relationship with Tops, and we continued to bring them products through the years. One of the ideas that we had for quite a while, we were working on a product. This is probably in the early 2000s. We wanted to come up with a new edible, a kid's candy that wasn't around plastic parts, didn't have any little, bells and whistles and novelty to it. Just a pure candy eat, a really good product. There's been a lot of great candy bars through the years, and they're always some form of chocolate. Kids like chocolate, but they don't really buy it. If they have a couple bucks in their pocket, they go down to the store, they're going to get something that's chewy and sweet and sour and, a sugar candy. So our thought was, well, if we can just get that quality of a candy bar, that sort of chew and texture and make it, kidify it, so to speak. And that's exactly what we did. We came up with this product. It was basically with taffy. We had a crunchy component to it of a, sort of a nerd-like crunch and a chew, and then that creamy coating. We brought that to Tops. It was under a different name at the time. I believe we were calling it Noogie Bar. It was like a chewy nougat. So the Noogie Bar seemed like a fun name. We had some other, some sort of nonsensical names. Sorry, I can't think of what they are at the moment. I have to pull out my file. Kind of like a What's It bar, I think was one of them. Let's see, like a Squiggly or a Wiggly bar. We were kind of into that sort of, just a fun, nonsensical area, and that's really where Wazoo came out. They got it right away. I mean, I think they really thought, oh, this is pretty cool. So that went into development, and that leads us into the rest of the story. The concept went into a sort of commercialization stage where they brought in food scientists. This is Tops I'm referring to. They developed the concept, made some bars. Really, I mean, we were all loving it. Then they went out, looked for a co-packer, a manufacturer that could make this for them, because Tops does not make candy bars. It's not that easy to find a co-packer that could make this double layered taffy-like bar with the creamy coating and then drop the crunchies on top. You think it would be easy? It was not easy. They did find a company called Cherrydale Farms. They're in Pennsylvania. And the company had been around for 100 years. So, they did great work. We were all saying, oh, that's great. The price was right, everything. So they went into production. And lo and behold, they really just completed the first production run, which was enough to get the bar into the stores. Meanwhile, we're running the commercial and just getting it launched. They did that first production run, enough to get it all into the different stores throughout the country. And they ceased to exist. They shut down their factory. They were in deep financial trouble, it turns out. And they shut down. And that really, in a nutshell, is how the product died. You really don't get a second chance. If you can't put the product on the shelves, and it would have taken them many months to get back up and running and find another co-packer. So that's unfortunately one of the most frustrating situations we've ever had in our careers. Yeah, so that's really what happened, and that's why you see that. And as you remembered, it was just there for a little while. It never got restocked, and that was pretty much it.
Did they know about the company's financial trouble prior, or the company the Cherrydale Farms? They kind of kept that like vague or like hidden.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think they were aware at all of what was happening, and it was a real surprise and kind of a shocker. So. Frustrating enough. I mean, you can't really blame anyone. Tops did a great job with the product. I think the commercial is a lot of fun. It showcased the product, did it in a fun way. It was very catchy, and they got the product on the shelves. They had national distribution. All was looking good, but unfortunately, was just out of their control.
Have you had any recent connections with Tops about new candies, or like any attempts to like revamp the Wazoo, like bring it back?
We've talked about it. We certainly hope they would do that. And there's a complete different regime over there from back in the day, and I don't know if the desire is there. I don't know. I really wish they would, but we definitely do deal with Tops, and we have a great relationship with them. They're a good company. We don't have anything new in the works right now. We've been doing this a very long time. We've had a lot of great products through the years, and we've recently been just steering a little bit away from candy and looking at some other products, and could be in toys, could be in other food, but the slate is clean for us right now.
So in doing some research about like people's reactions to the bar, it seems very 50-50 between people who enjoyed it or not. And I was wondering if you had like any comment on that, if there was anything like back in the day with any experience of that, like in the original production line?
I do think there was definitely the camp of kids who thought maybe it was just too creamy or too chewy or whatever. I mean, you'll find that with a lot of candy. Some kids don't like sour. Some, of course, love sour. So yeah, maybe a little polarizing. I don't think we'll ever know. It didn't have a long enough run to really evaluate. I think that the product, we truly believed in it. And we've done a lot of products. We've had some 30 products on the market. I just feel like it would have grown in popularity. I think there would have been a word of mouth kind of thing developed, even if it didn't sell tremendously right out of the gate. I really feel it would have hit its stride and it would be on the shelf today. There's a petition for the Wazoo bar?
Yeah, I think it's about halfway there, honestly.
Okay. That's good. I'll have to look that up. That's funny. My kids, to this day, of all the products we've ever done, and we've had some really fun ones, it's the one that they really miss. Yeah, so the woman that cuts my hair, she loved that product. When it first came out, I brought her a few bars, and she would take them, chop them up into little bits, and put them with vanilla ice cream, and she just raved about it, thought it was amazing. It's so long ago now, it's some 13 years ago, and you can imagine that flavor, and you kind of try to recreate that. Oh man, I remember it was like chewy, sweet, but a little sour and a little creamy, and it's a really interesting product.
Definitely. Like I still have that taste on my tongue after all these years. Like I can't like it still sticks with me.
That's great. Where did you buy your Wazoo bars back in the day?
Just down the street from me. I remember I was in an Italian restaurant with my family, and I guess my dad stopped at the deli for something, and he came back and he was like, "Here's this, I got you this candy bar." And I was looking at him like, "Oh, this is so like, it was like trippy. It was strange because it says it's got like the swirling like clashing colors on it."
Mm-hmm.
And I remember eating in that restaurant. I'm like, "Oh, this is like really interesting," And I was like fixated on the taste of it that whole time. But from what I've seen with like my research, a lot of people have received it from like Walmarts and stuff, I guess, because they're like wholesale, like they have one of everything in there.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember in my research too that a lot of people didn't have access to it, and a big part of that is, of course, that they just don't. It was a limited production line too, but they're probably not going to put them in like every single store or like every like small scale like bodega, that kind of thing.
No. I think it might have had it rolled out fully, but Tops has a really large presence at the Walmarts and particularly in the front end, which at the register, and that's where they launched. So it definitely, had it continued in production, it had a very good chance, and it unfortunately didn't go that way. It was truly the most frustrating product launch we've ever experienced. And it's a shame. I feel like it was the one that got away, so to speak.
Dan Hart is a kind, passionate man. His melancholy reflections intertwine with fond memories over his creation. It shows just how much he cared about what he was giving the world. Can you say the same about other candies? Dan followed a dream to create something strange and fun that kids would love. Although it was short-lived, he absolutely succeeded. After the interview, I asked Dan about any recipes he might have for the candy. He told me he didn't have any recipes to offer. He said that the taffy and the coating would be very hard to replicate, but for the crunchy part, he said just use nerds. So, go crazy. I began doing some research into Cherrydale Farms after Dan mentioned it. The search leads you to a fundraising company of the same name, and I'm inclined to believe that they are or were the same company. The heritage story begins in 1907 with Esther Cherry, who produced and sold chocolates. Non-profit organizations asked to sell the candy as parts of fundraising efforts. Nowadays, the company is tied to more than just candy, offering gardening kits, gift wraps, and whatever cutting-edge technology is. It seems that the company is still around, but the candy production may have ended. More evidence of Cherrydale's existence can be found on eBay, where old candy tins and toy banks can be bought. This candy truck is kind of nice. This other one is kind of creepy. And that's about everything I could find relating to the Wazoo. In my research, I found a petition online to get the Wazoo back on shelves. And I feel so mixed about it. Don't get me wrong, if there's even the slightest chance of getting it back, I'm taking it. And I encourage you to sign it too. But if it does get put back on the shelves, well, Then what? Will it go through the same motion, just a flash in the pan? Will people be just as mixed about it as they were in 2009? Is it doomed to fail? Will it taste the same as when I was a kid? Will the recipe change, or will it be I who has changed? Is my nostalgia more valuable than a resurrection? Is it only special because it isn't here? And should it just live on as a memory?